Today I'm in North Tucson with Marta. Marta, how long have you been homeless out in the streets of Tucson?
For over a year.
And how did you become homeless?
Me and my brother got in an argument and he kicked me out.
And since then you've been out in the streets all by yourself?
Pretty much, yes.
One thing I've noticed in Phoenix is a lot of homelessness due to like there's an epidemic of like blues, fentanyl pills. Do you see that here in Tucson as well?
Yeah, I do.
And do you use anything like that or no?
Yes.
How many pills do you smoke per day yourself?
2. The most I've smoked is 4, and then I think a couple of times the most I've smoked was 5. But I'm trying to cut back down.
How much does each pill cost here in Tucson?
$5.
That's how much they cost in Phoenix as well. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico last weekend, and they're about $8 to $10 per pill over there. So it's a little bit more expensive, even though they're like 6 hours away. I'm also noticing that there's lots of young people, 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds out in Phoenix. Is there a lot? Do you see a lot of youth out here in Tucson as well that are struggling with this epidemic of pills and homelessness?
Yes.
Why do you think it's hitting the youth so hard?
Probably because, well, I've asked people, and a lot of kids will tell me that their parents will kick them out because they don't like the fact that they're doing drugs, or they just moved out and they just don't want to go home because they choose to be on that lifestyle.
Marta, what did your normal life look like before you became homeless and you started using pills? Did you have a family, children?
Yeah, I had a daughter and 2 grandkids, and before I was homeless, I worked on a dog farm, and I moved to Kansas to get off drugs, and I did, and then I started slipping, and so I went ahead and moved to Colorado to get off drugs, and I did pretty good for 4 months, but my best friend got cancer and died, and so I relapsed.
That was a trigger for you to go back to that?
Yes.
When's the last time you saw your daughter and granddaughter?
3 years ago.
You miss them?
Yeah.
Have you thought about going to treatment?
I thought about it, yeah. I made some inventions and I was gonna pay to go to one. But I wanted to make one of my own because I asked a lot of people about their rehab, and I've seen a lot of people in rehab, and they keep going back and they'll cheat, and then they'll go do their paperwork after their meetings, and they'll be high while they're writing their papers out or things like that. So I came up with a new rehab where you could, instead of going to a class, if you had a choice to pick a career of your own, like a welding skill, or if you want to make music, and then just have someone come in randomly and talk to you as a friend, and not be so about just the class, because a lot of people say when they go to a class you meet another connection, or and you get a coin, and that's great, and it works for some people, but for me, if I would get off drugs and walk away, I'd have to have something bigger than that. So I wanted to make something bigger. So I wanted to be an inventor. That's how I was going to get off drugs. I wanted to make myself something else instead of do that.
So you have a creative mind, or you're trying to invent things to help the community, help people, right?
Yes.
I think that's noble, very noble of you, and that's, I think you have a bright mind. You just gotta use it, right? The first thing you gotta do is help yourself, right? So if you have inventions in your head that you need to put on paper and need to, make them reality, you need to be sober for that, right?
I was sober. I was getting sober. When I started doing this, I did it when I was homeless. I went to the mountains, and I had to think because I couldn't get a job. I lost my job because my last name didn't match my name on my social security card, so they let me go. And after that, I just didn't have no money to get a divorce decree or anything like that. And then I went to the mountains and I had to think and a quick way to make some money. So my friend was telling me about this boomerang skipping stone that he was going to do as like a gimmick just to make some money. And so I thought about doing that, but then I decided to, instead of doing that I wanted to do it, skip a stone to 50 states and around the world and in outer space and make $1 million in giveaways in memory of my best friend. And then I wanted to do something else like that for another friend I lost to diabetes. And so I started doing that and making cancer bags. And as time went on, I kind of slowed down on the meth, but it was kind of up and down. But I went about 7 days, but I could be around a person that was smoking meth for 7 days or 10 days. So I'd go 10 days and then I would smoke. And then I'd stop for another 7 days and then I'd smoke. And then I'd stop for 3 days and then I'd smoke. And that's how it's kind of slowly getting off. And then I put $500 into my car to get it fixed because I wanted to start volunteering and keep busy so that I could do something so I wouldn't be on drugs, because if I went to the hospital, I wouldn't be able to go messed up, so it would keep me sober. And so I decided to do that, and somebody stole my car, and kind of after that I kind of set him on the streets, and then was still doing it. And then I got burnt in a house fire and moved back to Arizona, and I was still doing it, making flags and cutting out cancer signs. I was trying to think of different things I could make, and I kind of just got restless. And then me and my brother got in a fight, kicked me out. My car didn't have insurance on it, so they towed it away. And I was still messing up a little bit, but for the most part, I was still doing what I wanted to do. I just couldn't really go anywhere else because the only bathroom I could use was at the Quick Trip, and I had to be careful with my gas. So it just kind of, I don't know, just kind of fell downhill.
What are the hardest hit areas for like homelessness and this fentanyl blues epidemic here in Tucson? What parks do people usually hang out at that are struggling with that?
Well, they don't just hang out at parks, they hang out everywhere, but usually a convenience store or Stone Park, any park really, or bus stations, or they'll use a bathroom in a store, things like that.
All of your possessions are in that shopping cart, Marta?
Yes. Well, not all of them. I moved out of a house, and this is what I really have left. You just can't carry it.
My last question to you is, what advice would you give young people that are, they're preteens, teens, thinking about being cool and trying these pills, living like the cool lifestyle, right? They might not understand the ramifications, consequences of that decision, but you're living this lifestyle. What advice would you give them?
Not to ever do it. It'll ruin your life. Once it's in your body, you can't really get it out. It's always there. And sometimes you're lucky and you can get away, but for the most part, once it's in your system, you're pretty much screwed.
That's great advice. Marta, thank you very much for talking to me. I hope your situation changes. I'll pray for you to have the courage to get treatment and get better, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.